Almost a year has passed since I came down here at your headmaster's kind invitation. The 10 months that have passed have seen very terrible, catastrophic events in the world, ups and downs, misfortunes. But can anybody sitting here this afternoon, this October afternoon, not feel deeply thankful for what has happened in the time that has passed and for the very great improvement in position of our country and of our home? Why, when I was here last, we were quite alone, desperately alone, and we had been so for 5 or 6 months. We were poorly armed. We're not so poorly armed today, but then we were very poorly armed. We had an unmeasured menace of the enemy and their air attack still beating upon us. You yourselves have had experience with this attack, and I expect you are beginning to feel impatient that there has been a long lull with nothing particular turning up. But we must learn to be equally good at what is short and sharp and to what is long and tough. It is generally said that the British people are often better at the last. They don't expect to move from crisis to crisis. They do not always expect that each day will bring up some noble chance of war. But when they are very slowly make up their minds that the thing has to be done and the job put through and finished, then, even if it takes months, even if it takes years, they do it. Another lesson I think we may take, just throwing our minds back to our meeting 10 months ago now, is that appearances are often very deceptive. And as Kipling well says, you must meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. I cannot tell from appearances, how things will go. Sometimes imagination makes things out far worse than what they are. Yet without imagination, not much can be done. Those people who are not imaginative see many more dangers. Those people who are imaginative see many more dangers than perhaps exist. Certainly many more than will happen, but they also pray to be given that extra courage to carry through this far-reaching imagination. But for anybody, surely what we've gone through in this period, and I am addressing myself to the school, surely from this period of the 10 months, this is the lesson. Never give in. Never give in. Never, 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 never in nothing, great or small, large or petty. Never give in except to conviction of honor and good sense. Never yield to force. Never yield to apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. We stood all alone a year ago, and to many countries it seemed that our account was closed. We were finished. All this tradition of ours, our songs, our school history, this part of the history of this country, were gone and finished and liquidated. Very different is the mood today. Britain, other nations thought, had drawn a sponge across her slate, but instead our country stood in the gap. There was no flinching and no thought of giving in. And by what seemed almost a miracle to those outside these islands, we ourselves never doubted it. We now find ourselves in a position where I can say we can be sure that we have only to persevere and conquer. So in closing, I say, do not let us speak of darker days. Let us speak rather of sterner days. These are not dark days, these are great days. The greatest days our country has ever lived. And we must all thank God that we have been allowed, each of us according to our stations, to play a part in making these days memorable in the history of our nation. Thank you.